Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Heart, Cat, and Soul, second season. Well, last season was a bit short, but we are starting now. New year, new season, something's different, and more interviews. So, and a video. That's also something new. So, welcome. And today, I wanted to talk about vets and how the things that we need to deal with, and that sometimes it even if you have a different thinking, or even if you want to do things when once you finish school, you encounter a situation that it's not perfect, and well, how we manage to survive. So for that, I want to hear the story of Tina Hansen. She's well, you're now in Norway, right?
Yeah.
And she's going to tell us her story because, well, she's been sharing that on Instagram, and I found it very, very interesting because I lived similar things, and we're going to talk about it. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on here.
So tell us about what are you, where are you now, and are you working in a practice? What are you doing?
Yeah,
Before we...
so I'm Norwegian, but I studied in Poland, so I spent my entire time there, and then I did a couple externships and stuff before I started working, and I took a job in the UK. And then I worked there for about a year, and then I very much burned out, and actually I had two jobs in the UK. And then I burned out, got tired, and kind of reconsidered my choices. And now I'm back at it, but working for myself in Norway.
Oh, and when you say working for yourself, you're doing you have your own practice now?
I have my own company, but I am working in a practice and kind of working by myself in that practice. So I get a part of what I earn, and then I do some online stuff as well, and I have some things up my sleeves that will come later this year.
Good, good. Okay, we're gonna talk about that those years, the first year in the UK, because well, first before that, let's go to vet school. What is your feeling from what we learn in school?
Versus what we actually need in real life.
Yeah.
Well, you also have to keep in mind that I was a COVID student, so I had 2 years online with nothing, so or
Wow.
only online stuff, so I had nothing in person almost for 2 years. So, well, I can say my part of that. I think we learn so much like theory, and then you make it into real life, and it's so much to learn once you start, and obviously you have a lot of ideas and you have like resources that you can use, but things need to go fast and you don't really have time to look everything up. You don't have any routines because I think every school is different, and I think the level of practical experience that you get in different universities is very different. But overall, I think actually most universities really lack that practical skill set, like training their students on practical things because of ethics, because of money, because of space. It's challenging, and I remember fighting over every single practical experience in school. It's like, who wants to do this? And everyone was like, me, 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 me. And only a couple maybe got to try something, and then so it's quite hard in university to get that practical experience. So basically, you graduate and you're pretty much like, here you go, do a surgery. I've watched a YouTube video once. So yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
think that could be better a lot of places in the world. Well, obviously, I did have 2 years of COVID, which may explain some things, but I think even students before COVID mentioned this as an issue. So overall,
Yes, it is an issue. In my case, I would say I really like the education in Argentina. I don't know how it's now because it's been 15 years now. But uh, but the thing is that when I went to school, we focus a lot in large animals, and we had loads of practical well, practices too in large animals. We went to a dairy farm. We went to We even learn how to remove I don't know how to call it, the from a horse, the
Oh,
metal
you did
thing.
the hoofs. Yeah, you learned to put the shoes on.
Yeah, exactly. And we learn how to, how to deal with that, because in Argentina we are taught to, you need to learn how to do everything, because there's not always the resources to do it. So you need to know how to. Maybe you're never going to do it because then somebody has the resources and you don't have to. But in the case that happens, you need to know, right? But the problem was that even when we just I selected a small animal, I had very theoretical practical practices, and not that much on, well, nutrition. I actually knew how to formulate for a cow, but we never formulated for a dog, because that was, simply, it was a bag of kibble ready for you to go, and that was it, and nothing about cats. Just one class that there was a comparison, one or two classes. It was a comparison from what we learned from dogs, and that was it. And
Yeah, I think it's just in vet school you very much learn about feed, not food.
exactly.
You learn how kibble is produced, and you learn how, how to feed a dairy cow to make it stay healthy, because it's a lot of money for the farmer. and
Yes.
yeah, and you learn about nutritional deficiencies that happened in a kitten that was living outside and only ate raw fish and got really sick and died,
Yeah.
and these very extreme cases of nutritional deficiencies. So
Yes.
yeah, I don't like, I don't know why some vets on social media says, oh, we learned so much nutrition in school. Well, I don't know what kind of nutrition course they had, but majority of the schools I know and the one I went to was very conservative, and it was about feed, not food.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. That's the same, and I think it's everywhere, because everywhere I talk to vets around the world, and I don't see. I mean, I am grateful that we had a lot of practical things to do. We actually did a lot of things in that area, but at the same time, they don't teach you things that I think they are completely necessary, such as how to run a business.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. I wish.
Exactly, because in the end, you are going to run a business, right? And then how to manage your first cases, because that pressure that you get from the client, because my first client, I remember being petrified, because it was a dog that was vomiting blood directly, and it was awful. And I was like, yeah, this looks like, you gave an anti-inflammatory that you shouldn't have, an aspirin or something. And I was like, it looks like that. So I remember telling this man, look, just leave me with the dog and come back in a few hours so I can panic alone.
Sounds about right.
So I remember panic until I got the answer, and the dog is fine. But as a really new graduate, you face these issues like, yeah, I know the books, but what happens in real life? What do we
God, tell me
do?
about it.
Uh, and then, so you finished in Poland, and then you went to UK straight away.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, in Norway we have something called a temporary license, so I did actually do some work in Norway, which also was an introduction to how rough life can be. This not the summer right before I graduated, but the summer before, I worked as a nurse in Sweden,
Okay.
because we can, after the pharmacology course, you can work as a nurse over
Yeah.
there. So I started out there, and I started realizing, like, damn, nobody wants to show me anything, and they don't want to teach me anything, and they won't really let me do much because they won't show me anything. So they're scared of me doing it wrong. And that's where I really started like, okay, nobody's here like to educate or to help or to make me useful, like I was
Yes.
there, like just teach me a couple of things so I could be useful, and then on my second try the summer after, I worked in a practice in Norway on a temporary license, and I was excited to finally do some of my own stuff, and they were kind of like, "Here you go, here's a couple of vaccines," and then they kind of realized, that I had lack in the practical experience because obviously I had 2 years online, so it took like I actually learned really fast once someone took the time to actually show me things. But the thing is that
Wow.
nobody did. They just like, here you have a vaccine. And then if I had something else, I was kind of like, okay, I'm working up this urinary cat. Like, where's all the equipment? How many MV do you spin the urine at? And like, I had no idea how anything worked. So they had to show me everything, and it took time,
Hmm.
and they didn't set off the time to do that. So yeah, it was hard. It was I felt useless, and they wouldn't let me do stuff, and then I would just sit there all summer and take phone calls and mop the floor and do everything else basically, or be yelled at if I actually tried to do something. So I had a horrible experience, and that's also why I gave up Norway in the first place, because I felt like nobody in Norway is here to help. Like nobody wants to teach me anything, and
Hmm.
no, yeah, so you're just there floating around like doing everything wrong, or like not doing anything because nobody wants to teach you. Like it can go so fast if you just invest a little bit in the first few weeks. And the thing is, in
Yeah.
Norway they don't have this system around, like in the UK, which is why I ended up going to the UK in the first place, is because in the UK, okay, you have a new graduate, it's your responsibility. You have to teach them. You have to have a meeting with them, I think once a week. You have to follow up. You have to do CPD. They have to like write in form. Like the one in charge is really responsible for that new graduate, and that's kind of made sure of. But in Norway, that's not the case. It's just like
Wow.
go work somewhere, and then it's like bingo if you get to a clinic will they actually teach you stuff or not. So yeah, I kind of gave up on Scandinavia in that sense because I didn't learn anything here. So that's why I wanted to go to the UK, because they were so good at following up their new graduates to take them up to speed fast. And I can say a lot of things about the UK, but they did teach me very fast, and they did take time from me, and they did follow through in that sense to a certain point. But yeah, I learned a lot in the UK, and I'm in the end I'm glad I went.
Okay, that's a good that's a good thing. I would have to say that I was thankful. Well, in Argentina, well, the first job I had, actually, I was there was a responsible vet, but he usually went out, so that's why I got this dog. So I was alone at that point. It was a small clinic, and it was
Mm.
very difficult. So I think I've learned the hard way,
Yes,
um, which it gave me a lot of resources, but it also stressed me a lot
gave me a lot of
to
trauma.
to a point that actually after that job is when I was diagnosed of an autoimmune. So yeah, so that's the pressure that we get from from different experiences. But then I had really good teachers, especially the feline one, because I was afraid of cats before. And I decided to practice with a feline specialist in Buenos Aires. And he was great. He was great because he would allow you to do everything. And he had really well trained nurses, and they actually he was just the specialist who come just a few minutes. But when a client came in, he was like, okay guys, you're in charge, just do whatever you would do, I'm just gonna be here observing. And so he would let you do everything. And then when we had to say, okay, your cat is suffering from something, uh, he would say to the client, look, wait for a minute. I will discuss with the team what's going on, and then I'll come back to you. Right. So he will ask us what we thought the problem was. And then he would come and say, well, what he thought it was. Because we didn't get it all the time. So we were learning. But the thing is, that he was very open to teach, and that's one of the things really thankful for. Not only because I lost, I became passionate about cats, but also because he was very open to teach you surgery, anything. He was really good at that. And then I've also learned a lot when I went to the U.S. in Texas A&M. They had also this: you come here to practice. You're gonna be here, 12 hours a day, but you're gonna learn. And we had those meetings. We discussed the cases. So I'm very thankful about. I think there are some good things from our school, but what would you say from the first year? What would you say you would have liked to have more, besides the support, because that is completely true. I mean, if you don't have someone supporting you, but what would you like uh, to have at that time when you were recently graduate?
Yeah, I actually know the answer to this because I thought about that a lot. Like, why was I so happy before, and why am I struggling so much now? And I think
Mm-hmm.
for me, I think everything would have been better if I had a good support system around me. Because I didn't just, get a job, close to home or anything. I went to the like across the pond. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any family. I didn't have a bank. I didn't have a SIM
Oh,
card. Nothing. I just got my registration and kind of went over. And the thing is, it's just when you're a new graduate, everything is already hard. If everything
mhm.
else in your life is also hard, everything just gets hard and you cannot enjoy anything because everything is hard. So for me, it
Exactly.
was it was not just about thinking back on that year, it was not just about work being hard. It was also the fact that they scammed me on the first job. I got I had no one to look at a car with me, and I couldn't afford it. My bike was falling apart. I skipped houses like 3 times because people were treating me like shit. I had two cars breaking down. We picked up on the side of the road all the time. I had no money. I had no one to ask. It took me months to get SIM cards, electricity, a bank in England, and which I actually still didn't get in the end. But yeah, I just feel like you know if I would have gone back home, lived near my mom or whatever, my family, and then having friends around, and then I would have the same situation at work, I feel like it would be 10 times as much survivable if I just had a good support system around me. And I even see that in other students that went out of their own country to start working, especially the ones that went somewhere where they had a really close friend, or they went somewhere where they had a family. They're the only ones who's still in their first job, I think, and are like kind of okay-ish. A lot of the other ones just went back home, or they gave up vet med. A lot of my friends actually did, or they gave up
Wow.
clinical practice already. So yeah, I think definitely having good
In the
support
first
system.
year.
Yeah, first or second, a lot of them. Yeah,
Wow, after all that investment.
yeah,
Because it took me a couple of years to only practice in me.
yeah,
Yeah, I worked for 5 to 6 years before I decided that no. Well, I did work at the cat cafe, but that's when I decided not. This is not for me. Because I also I had difficulties with the support system, not with the family. I actually, because I went back the first year I did work where in the city where I studied, which is not the same where my parents live, and but then I moved back, and that was a kind of a calm period where everything was not great but not bad. So that's
stable.
kind
Yeah,
of the yeah, very stable. And but I do understand that support system. And um do you think that support system has to come from, because for what you're saying, it's not just from the vet, from the practice, right? It's also everything else, all the
yeah,
bureaucracy that you encounter when you move to another country.
yeah.
So do you think that if we supported each other as vets in a clinic, that would have made it easier for you?
I honestly don't think so, because I did have quite a few vets that were really nice to me and took really good care of me. But, since they're a colleague, you don't want to go to them and be like, "Hi, can you help me get a SIM card?" or "Can you go and look at 100 cars with me?" Like, you need someone you're that close to and are that invested in you, and like more like family, that are really
Yeah,
willing to help you, and that you know that you can ask, and you don't feel bad for asking or nagging. You know what I mean?
hmm,
Like, you can,
yes,
like family, you can always ask them anything, and they will want to help you, and you don't feel bad about asking, and that's what you need, basically, because that's what I
yeah,
really wish that I had. Because even my first job, one of my bosses actually took really good care of me. He invited me for dinners. He was trying to help in many ways, but at the same time, this is new. I couldn't ask him everything. So I still did a lot of things on my own and had no one to ask. So yeah, I
yeah.
think definitely if you're new graduate and want to go straight abroad, I would really recommend anyone to go somewhere where you have friends or family around, or you have a good support system around you, because it'll make your experience so much easier.
Or maybe stay at home for a few years and then go when you feel ready to go and face that your career.
Yeah,
Because
as well,
that's what I
if you
did.
have if you have a good place to go at home. I'm still, honestly, I'm still glad I went, because I think if I went here, I would probably still maybe never done a surgery, probably
Mm,
never done much practical stuff, because they don't teach you here. That's why I wanted
yeah.
to go to the UK so bad, because many of my friends, they've been out for almost 2 years now, and they still don't really do surgery because nobody's taken the time to show them.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
so the well, what I'm really inspired a bit for what you're saying is that you still got the motivation to face all those challenges, um, to do what you well to fulfill what your career and start. Because many people would say, well, I'd rather not do a surgery and just be at home and close to home and not
Mhm.
not experience those things. But that was a strong feeling for you, like, I need to learn, I want to learn, I
Yeah.
um
After
and
those
that
two
made you
summers,
face
yeah.
yeah that made you face all those challenges. And this is what I always like to say to other vets, is that sometimes it's painful, but in the end worth it. For me, the first year was also really really bad, not only because I was diagnosed with that, but um, the problem was that at first that year it was very complicated to find a house. It was it was I had to share it. It was a very small apartment, and I was not making enough money because you're a new graduate, so
Mm.
you don't get paid as you should. Um, and then when I got the thyroid issue, everything, I was tired. Everything was very difficult. And then when I moved home, and I was properly diagnosed, and everything was, working a little bit better, that was the first time I decided that I was going to do things differently,
Mm.
because they told me, "Oh, no worries, your thyroid autoimmune problem is not an issue. You're gonna just take a pill the rest of your life." And something clicked in me, like, no way, I'm not taking a pill the rest of my life. So usually those bad experiences have a lesson, because if that never happened, I'll probably be a normal vet. But the search for a different way of treating myself showed me that there was much more in medicine that in any other, that I was not, I didn't have to follow that protocol, right?
Uh,
I'm and I'm still taking that pill, but I am doing also loads of other things that make me feel better that nobody was considering. So what was your takeout? Did you say in that, yes, you learn a lot, and but what other things from, as a person, not only as a vet, what other experiences had made you stronger from that first year?
Yeah, because when we're on the disease topic, I also have an autoimmune disease. Was diagnosed at 14. um, and the thing is, I actually started my journey early vet school, trying to figure out how to make myself better because I was constantly ill. I didn't function. I was always had a cold. I had some opportunistic infection. I had skin rashes. I had, a lot of issues, health issues. And then I started it in early vet school, and then I kind of started thinking about it as well on like animals. Like if my food can make me feel so much better, maybe they shouldn't be eating ultra processed food either. And
Wow.
I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the one who jumped straight in. I've always been very conventional. I've never really believed in anything else. Although I had a couple experiences throughout the years of being like, oh wow, you know. But I was very like harsh, even almost all throughout vet school. I was also still like, no, raw, they can't eat raw, but maybe fresh, So it's been a long journey for me trying to, because I'm actually very conventional, very like narrow minded, and I guess it's all exploded
We're
now,
all.
but yeah, but I started out very narrow minded, very conventional, very medicine is it, and nothing else works, and yeah, diet
Yeah.
doesn't matter. So I started there, and the thing is, I managed to manage my health very well during vet school, and so I
Mhm.
would go almost throughout vet school almost without any symptoms of any of my chronic illness, actually, which I'm very proud of.
Wow.
But that bubble kind of started bursting a little bit after all these traumatic experiences when I was working in clinics, and I lost the faith in myself every time. And during COVID, I was isolated and depressed and alone, and a lot of trauma. It is
Yeah.
like a bag that you're carrying, and sometimes it doesn't always get back to the way it was before. And it's kind of
Hmm.
something you have to like learn to live with. Um,
Hmm.
and I think, yeah, and after some of this traumatic experience, some of the problems started getting back. Like even when I got out of the traumatic experience, it takes weeks, sometimes
It's
months to even
months.
try
Yeah.
to get back to where you were. And yeah, I'd say definitely as a vet student and a new graduate vet wanting to learn, you're always open minded, you're trying your very best, and all you want to do is the best, and to help and to save the world and to learn and to please everybody, be a perfectionist that we all are. And
Hmm.
then you get somewhere and they just like shit on you, and they just treat you like shit, and they don't want let you do anything, and then they won't teach you anything, and then they're just very mean. So I've had a lot of very harsh experiences throughout the years, both the summers. I went to an equine externship in Dubai. They just people treat you like shit in these places, like they really do. And I was very much like, I wanted to go like the hard way. I'm gonna do like all the internships, and I'm gonna specialize. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And I realized like all of these are slave programs. They're just there to pay you nothing and tell you
Okay.
you're a piece of shit. And if you're lucky, other than scrubbing buckets, maybe you get to learn some things. But also, the thing I took out of some of these experiences was really, when you are in the trauma state of mind, you won't even remember a quarter of what you learned because you're associated with trauma, and your body's way of protecting you is to forget about it. So
Yeah.
even like I went through so much shit just to get experience, and then in the end I don't even remember because it was so traumatizing, the whole experience. So now
Wow.
I've really, after this all these experiences, I really started to take a different approach. And my partner, is very opposite of me. He was where I was a few years ago, and I'm gonna go the hard way. I'm gonna never sleep, never eat. And I don't care about money. I just want all the experiences. I just want to work so hard. And then, also starting working. I've kind of been like up and down managing my symptoms. But once I started actually working full time, there was no break anymore. And there was just more trauma and more trauma, more stress, and I got a complete flare up. Like, and the annoying thing with chronic disease sometimes is that you can still function, you can still work because nobody can see your symptoms, you know what I mean? But you're just
Hmm.
there
Yes.
scratching your hair out at night, and you can't sleep, and you're just, very sick and itchy, or you just feel like crap. And it's just like, you can't sleep, and you get tired, and then you get more rashes, and you look like a nightmare, and it's just, you feel horrible. And yeah, this when you start working, there's no stop button, you know It just goes and
There's
goes.
there's a lot of videos of vets taking the lunch, and see them
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
back
yeah.
and away again.
Very standard. Very
Yeah.
standard. So like it's really hard when you have chronic illness to kind of manage in this pace, like, and everything goes so fast. You don't have time to catch up, you don't have time to heal, you don't have time to take care of your body. And after all these experiences, I think I really found out that I have to find a different path that works for me, because I know that working full time in a busy practice will make me ill, and I will stay
Mhm.
ill. And no matter how much I like medicine, I can't live like that. I have to,
Yeah.
if I want to
So,
grow old, I need to take care of my health too. So yeah, I think that's one of the things
wow.
I definitely took away, that I need to take a different approach. Maybe I don't want to specialize in that standard term, but I can still do my own studying. I can still take my
Mhm.
own online courses at my own pace. I can, there's still so much you can do, even though if your body's holding you back from certain things. But in one way, I feel like it's a blessing and a curse, because where would I be if I didn't have this disease? I would probably
Yeah.
still be a normal
Working your
doctor, just working my ass off, maybe be miserable, So I think, yeah, a blessing in disguise, I guess.
yeah, that's what I thought. The same thing, because I would not be here today if it were for that.
Yeah, same.
Um, but it's very interesting because we really want to do all those internships, and I'm thankful that I was helped by really good teachers, and I was lucky. But it seems I hear more often this, they're treating you like shit and not allowing you to practice, and you're paying a lot of money to go and practice. You're again in a different country to learn how to do things. So if you just finish school, even if you had or not have disease, for someone that may be listening, that it's a vet or maybe thinking about, would you recommend becoming a vet, and what approach would you give them?
Yeah, no, this is maybe very negatively loaded, but overall, I always rooted for people to follow their dreams and to chase their dreams. I do maybe think that people should go experience it a little bit before they actually apply for vet school. Like, go work with a local vet, go work with a few different ones, see what it's like, see if it's something for you. And if it is, go that way. And I hope that you have better experiences than, than we had. So I would recommend, firstly, really enjoy vet school, because for me at least, it was the best time of my life. You will never
Yes,
be
it was
so
cool.
free ever again, with no responsibility. I came from a place with, like, I had the packed schedule, and I came to Poland, had nothing to do, and I was like, damn, I had to fill my time with something. And I started doing all these fun things, and I started
Yes,
really
me too.
living, like really living, having so many friends. We were always at cafes, we are always doing things. Everything was so easy and in one place, and life there was so cheap, and I had the best time of my life. So honestly, I
Yes.
really, really enjoyed vet school, and I know that
Hmm.
one day I will really, really enjoy being a vet too. It's just that you need to get over that. I think when you start, just make sure you're someone with a good support system, and try to
Yeah.
choose a clinic where they really want to teach you and support you. I think that's like the most important thing, because most people give up at this stage because it's everything so difficult. And if you can get through those first 2 years, you have a lot of experience already, and you can start to, like, think about all the other options. And honestly, there is a lot of options within vet med. I'm not saying they're easy to find, but there
Hmm.
are a lot of work that doesn't involve, clinical practice. So even if, you get tired of practice or something like this, you can go a different route as well, like us, or
Hmm.
like,
Yes.
you can do food sanitary things. There's administrative roles. There is a lot of different things that you can do in vet med that is not clinical practice as well.
Totally. Um, well, there's also this place you mentioned when we talked yesterday on the holistic vet sisters, and this place where you could volunteer if you want to talk about it, just because that's a really good thing. If you want to volunteer, if you just graduated, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I spent a lot of almost all my summers throughout vet schools and my holidays volunteering. So I went to different countries and I was volunteering, and you learn how they do things differently in other countries and different species, all these things. For example, I went to the Caribbean to an island called Meru. It's a small and remote island outside kind of like all the big ones in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And they have like 300 people and they all got pets. They got goats, cats, chicken, dogs, and they got no vet on the island. So I actually went there as a student as well because I volunteered in a neighboring island for a little bit to kind of uh, get up to speed to what medication they had, what diseases they had there, and similar. And then I took the experience with me and I took it to Meru. So if anyone wants to go volunteer, it's called the Meru Animal Welfare, and they got a Facebook page and their own website, and it's held by this really lovely English lady, and it's a very small project, but you get to go and live for free, and you can just go and help all the animals, even if you're, either if you're just, a dog lover, you can go and walk dogs, or if you're a vet or a nurse, your help is very much needed because there is actually no vet on the island. So if something happens, they have to take a speedboat over to the neighboring island, which is not a very nice ride, to get any
Wow.
help. So I actually learned so much from being down there. Both I started out, outside at
Mhm.
a different island, and I took everything with me. So we were giving out flea and tick treatment and stuff like that to really sick animals. We were treating the tick fever, all these things. There was really sick animals, and it was, some of them are like bite wounds and injuries, and like generally like easy things. Which is also funny when you look at like diseases abroad compared to those you see at home, because like abroad they live a very natural life, they eat natural foods, and they usually, their injuries usually, parasites, bite wounds, maybe
Mhm.
ehrlichiosis. When you were at home, you got all these weird diseases that humans have because they're adapted to our living style in our toxic world. So there's 100 types of thousands of different autoimmune diseases and chronic illness and rashes, and they all got fancy names, and everything becomes a lot more complicated. So yeah, I went down there to volunteer, and I got to do all these like easy things, like the diseases that we were
Yeah.
meant to have, if you know what I mean.
Yes, but I saw the post that I think you made a reel about it, saying which animal was sicker, if an animal that didn't have resources, or if they were living in a place without
Hmm.
resources, but they were eating. Sometimes we feel like, oh, it's in the street. The animal is scavenging or finding food everywhere, but they are eating natural food. And here they maybe live indoors and have all the commodities, and in the end they're more toxic and more
Yeah,
sick. um,
exactly.
and and it reminded me to Argentina. I remember, I love that post because the same thing. Usually when somebody calls me from Argentina, usually is dealing with basic stuff, and for them it's not that difficult to understand that they will have to feed meat to their animals. Maybe they have the difficulties that they want to add some rice or any carbohydrates because of the cost of meat, but still, they when you tell them, okay, you should feed a natural food, it's like, oh wow, okay, yeah, sure. It's like, best if I don't have to buy that bag of food. And when I remember when I came here to Spain, for me, I didn't know what grain free was. I was not aware of that. So that was my level of expertise. I was just simply giving royal canning.
Yeah, you come a long way.
And yes. And suddenly I was like introduced to grain free. I was like, oh, that's a thing. That's important. Oh my God. I may I may need to study some things. So but I was more it was easier for me to introduce natural diets to clients. Of course, we wouldn't think about balance, no, and complete imbalance, because uh, actually my dog was fed always the same food that we ate. If we had lentils, she would have lentils with meat, and that was her food. And that is very common. And she lived 14 years with nothing until, well, at 14 she had a spondylitis or spondylitis. How do I say it? I don't know how to say
Yes.
that in English. But it was a bone. She was in she had like uh, a problem in her hip in her hips, and she was well she was it was difficult to treat her. We tried several things, and it was very basic. Everything you would get, I see now all the treatments we have nowadays to treat all those illnesses. And now, and I look back and I say, oh my God, this is what we did was not the best thing. But she lived for 14, 15 years, really happy with natural food. She would never eat anything coming from a bag. She will say, like, what is that in colors? I don't care. She would not eat that, but
Yeah.
she will eat a a bowl full of lentils and meat and and natural ingredients. So we all learn from that, and I think uh, it's really interesting. One of the things that caught my attention and was like, I need to get to know this one, Mingyu, was because I love people that travel. I love people that are open to learn experiences from different countries, because it's easier to talk to all these experiences that you have. And I'm sure if you have to uh, give advice to another vet, you would consider saying you need to travel and see how they practice vet on other countries, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting. You know, things are so different. I've made a couple of videos on this too, like from anything from like the drugs that are used to like the welfare and standards and the gold standards, and there's many levels to health, and there's many options really out there. It all depends just what you have available and where you're at, and in the ethics and the morals and the religion sometimes of where you are. So
Yes.
yeah, I've learned a lot from traveling in different places and seeing a lot of diseases that I would never see at home. Yeah, I definitely learned a lot from seeing things abroad.
And how do you see your future now? You say, I want to love my career, love to be a vet in the future. So
No.
what are your plans for the future?
Yeah, no. I'm happy now, but it's not a long term solution. My dream and goal, like far into the future, would be, obviously I want to develop my online presence and work more online so that I can travel a bit more. My partner is still living abroad, so it's hard for me to stay rooted anywhere. So having
Hmm.
work that I can bring on my computer would be very easy. But further into the future, I would love to maybe have my own integrative clinic where I work part-time and I can maybe help and train students, and I want to have a big stable with a lot of animals and work online and things like that, and create educational resources for students as well as pet owners, and kind of, yeah, delve more into maybe education
Well,
platform.
you want to be that support system, for what I
Yeah,
hear.
yeah, yes. I do really enjoy the vet work as well, but I know my body can take too much of it because it's very
Hmm.
hectic and it's a lot of responsibility and it's very stressful for the
Yeah,
body as well. So, but I definitely want to stay in it. I just have to find the right amount that lets me stay healthy while doing it.
totally. And you were doing some natural approach, no, on acupuncture or something like that, or
Yeah,
not?
so I'm since graduating, I also did my acupuncture degree with university during vet school. So I'm certified in mixed animal veterinary acupuncture. We do learn a bit about food therapy and herbs as well, and so I do practice a little bit. I haven't done the degrees, but I'm very into it. And then
Hmm.
I have done a course in canine nutrition. Now I just need to learn more about cat nutrition. And yeah, I'm currently doing a course on hair mineral analysis
Oh, I
to
love that.
interpret samples for animals and stuff, and also
Hmm.
something I can do online, and I can see like the whole health of the animals and how everything's connected. And I've only just started, but I really enjoy it. It's very like things start to make so much sense. It's fantastic. I really like it.
Wow.
You learn
Okay,
really
so
in depth.
there you go. It's not all bad for people listening.
No.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel. You just need to find your place,
Yeah.
and also be brave enough to look on your, to stand for what you believe and what you think health is,
Mm.
and also be kind to yourself in order to not get sick in that,
Yes,
because it is a very demanding profession. And but it has its beautiful side.
definitely.
um I would have to say that if you only get to vet school just because you love animals, I would recommend you don't. First practice and look at what the reality is, because one of the things, I loved animals, and and just that, I was not even sure if I wanted, but then I saw so many dead animals in the way, and so many things that were really difficult for me to digest,
Mm.
such as animal production, for example, the cows. I fell in love with the cows. I think they're wonderful animals, but when I saw how they treated them, I was like, oh my god. It was really hard for me those years. At the same time, I had really good time on my years at school, but also I had to make a change in my mind of loving animals just because, just hugging them.
Yeah,
And
you
I
can
hear
see.
I hear people saying, oh, I love animals, I would like to be a vet. I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah, it's a lot more to it, and you can see it too in the people that get through vet school is usually the one that really, really, really wants it. The ones that just start because it would have been a fun idea, kind of, just usually falls off within the first few years because they realize that it's very hard and they need to really want it to invest this much time and money into it. So yeah, I think you really gotta want it to
Yeah,
go in such a demanding academia.
totally. Okay, so where they can people find you, and
Yeah, so my handle is the same basically everywhere. Purple Vet.
okay.
Purple.vet everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, Tina in the Wild. I made a series when I was traveling abroad working with wildlife. If anyone wants to see that.
Oh.
I also have videos on integrative medicine there. Building my own website will be up soon, www.purple.vet. And
Hmm.
soon we'll be ready for online consultations for dogs and nutrition. And eventually referrals, and hopefully I will have some courses coming up there for pet owners and potentially for veterinarians. It'll be interesting for them as well.
Loads of things. Well, then
Yes,
send me
much.
all the links and I will put them on the description so people can find you anywhere. And is it purple because you like purple, or there's a reason behind it? Another
No,
reason.
no. A lot of people ask me that. I actually put it on like the first. I pinned it on my Instagram. The reason because I was called traveling vet student because that's what I was doing. Traveling vet was already taken, and then I was like, I don't know
Hmm.
if I'm going to be traveling forever. Like that would be my image. So I needed something that I could stick with for the rest of my life, but that includes several things because I'm a very diverse person, dynamic. I love wildlife. I love holistic medicine. I love horses and small animals and exotics, and I love to travel, but I like to sometimes stay in one place. And then I needed something that was like well rounded that I can use forever and for everything. And then I did like purple, but purple is also a mix of different colors, right? So you have a lot of different colors in there.
Hmm.
Or more different colors in there. So I feel like it's like a little spectrum, It's just like medicine should
Oh,
be a
okay.
spectrum of not just, conventional medicine. It's all the holistic options, regenerative options, it's like a broader picture on life for everything.
Oh, okay. That's very nice. That's a really good one. Okay. Well, so I think we covered. I don't know if there's anything you would like to add or talk about an experience. Otherwise, we'll just say goodbye until the next time.
Yeah, no, I think I said the most important things for any new graduates or anything on there that your like the surrounding support system is really really important, and to finding a good first job, I would really recommend it to be a good one. Someone with really nice people that supports you and wants you to learn. So yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. I think we would have been saved from many things.
Yes, a lot of trauma.
Yeah. Now we are paying to solve those.
Yeah, exactly. For the rest of our lives.
But anyway, okay. So thank you very much for this time today, and I'll let you know when this is up and running. And nothing else to add. Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
thank you for having me.
Yeah. Bye. I mean,